Greetings! Anton here with a little H3VR development update. As you might have seen, I earlier this month was on a bit of a vacation, much needed, possibly the first real vacation of my life. I was beginning to get a little run down, so took a week off. Went up to NorCal, enjoyed some beaches, riding a bike on the coast, communing with the animals at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Got to ride in a train. The train was so excellent. Overall, it was a fantastic time, and I came back from that super rejuvenated, which is important because a whole lot of the work that needs to be done to bring H3 to an eventual 1.0 here is a little drudgerous. It's part of the reason why I don't have anything particularly exciting visually to show you folks this week, as the place that I decided to really start this long update cycle is a bunch of backend work in the game. It's a lot of the stuff that we want to do in terms of allowing you to edit data files for the game, SOSIG configurations, take and hold progressions, and things like that, involve making some very, very surgical edits, both to the library of data that is already in the game, the way I've defined these things over the past years of authoring them, but basically how the game gathers those all up into a database, registers those things, and accesses them. So an example of this has to, and that because of the fact that many of these were implemented at different moments in H3's development, I didn't exactly do them in a super consistent way. And so an example of these is like, if you open up the spectator panel and you want to change your appearance to look like one of the given SOSIGs, the way that works is it looks up what's called the SOSIG enemy definition and allows you to pick from one of those, and it sort of grabs the SOSIG outfit out of that. But that doesn't actually make a lot of sense, because that's just the sort of clothing that the SOSIG has, and there might be 5 different SOSIG enemy definitions with the same outfit definition, but I didn't really standardize that. I didn't make outfit definitions a first-class accessible data type in the way I did for the enemy definitions, just because the way I built the mode and what was important to me at the time. And so I'm making the very difficult and sort of like scary architectural changes just to make this stuff more consistent, more performant, and more accessible for both to these new tools and hopefully to a couple of the things that I'm going to refactor here. You know, the spectator panel is one of the things that's going to be getting some love for 1.0. So that was basically what my focus was this past week. I also wanted to take a moment to just like explain to you folks what to expect over this sort of like lead up to 1.0 release, probably that I'm aiming for November. And I would sort of separate it into sort of system-y stuff and content stuff. System-y stuff, especially stuff that's going to be dangerous, require a bit of experimentation, possibly be brittle and break things, is something that I'm going to be releasing as it gets worked on the experimental branch over the next couple months. In part because as we make these changes, bring these things, this functionality online, I want to be able to have you folks test it, tell me if you like the way it works, and help me find out if something is wrong with it. Whereas the content, all of the sort of like exciting stuff that we're going to have for the 1.0 release, and that's everything from like guns to a couple of the game modes are going to be getting a bit of a revamp. Most of that I'm going to actually hold off until the moment of the 1.0 release, so it can be this sort of like big splashy thing, and that, you know, it will actually feel like a final game release, and that the new content that is made, you won't have already played through it prior to that moment. So just so that just to manage expectations, and so that you folks can understand the order that I'm going to be doing these things in. So yeah, I'm super excited though, because there's some content in the game that it's not to say that that I don't love it, and that it isn't, you know, on its own, in its own way, complete. But some of it was coded a very long time ago and never really got to take advantage of modern game systems. One of the things that I was also working on a design standpoint this week with the rest of the team was actually Worstworld, which I still love as a mode. It's super fun. It's super cute. It really sort of like espouses the things that I love about VR as a medium, which is first and foremost trying to create a place that has a vibe, that has a logic to it, that maybe has some hidden lore and backstories, and then just creating little interaction surfaces. Within it. So we're going to be giving that mode a bunch of love. As I said, the sort of revamp of it won't be available until our 1.0 release. But it's definitely been humbling to go back into that, because I think that probably would have been like 2017 that I worked on that. And compared to Anton the developer now in 2025, Anton, the developer back in 2017, had no idea what he was doing. So just poking around that scene has been like, oh gosh, they're just direct referencing content there. Oh, they're not using Unity prefabs at all for that. Like, I'm honestly amazed that the scene works at all, given how jank so much of it. It was very yeah, very still learning to learn to code. So. But it's going to be getting a bunch of love, just like a bunch of other parts of the game that I'm going to be excited to talk about and share with you folks over the next couple months. So anywho, that just about does it for today. Hopefully next week I should have something more substantive and chewy to show you folks in terms of what's going on. But until then, I will leave you here, and I wish you all a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you soon. Peace.